Hello, I'm Paul Briley, and you're listening to Off the Comma. On this podcast, we explore all facets of what it means to feel stuck in life. We talk with people just like us who have found themselves sitting on a comma and not knowing where to go next. We'll unpack the experience, where they felt stuck, what they experienced, and what they learned. My goal is to inspire you by seeing yourself in others and finding possibility for yourself. Let's get into this week's conversation. Welcome back, everybody, for another exciting episode of Off the Comma. I'm very grateful to be here this week, as with every week, and very grateful this week because, like so many of my episodes, I get to meet someone for the first time this week. And I'm going to let her introduce herself in just a moment, Stacy Phillips. But I am looking forward to getting to know her through her story that she's going to share with us today. And we haven't really talked before today, so I'm really looking forward to kind of hearing about her experiences for the first time. And that's what we do here every week is we get to show up and listen to others. We get to hear what other people's experiences with sitting on a comma have been like. And as with every week, I know there's going to be really cool things that we take away from Stacy's learnings and her experience and the things that she has to share with us. So I'm going to stop talking and quit rambling. Stacy, I'm going to turn it over to you. We'll start with introductions. What I'd love for you to do is just start by telling us, how would you like to be known as a person, as a human being, and then anything else you'd like us to know about you.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited about today. I'm Stacy Phillips. I guess what's most important to me, and I remember when this happened, instead of being a lawyer, I became the mother of Andrew Bloomgarden and Allison Bloomgarden. And now I'm the grandmother of Felix Bloomgarden. So yes, he has 4 names, but he's Felix, almost 15 months. So I remember when my dad was very proud that he went from being a very well-known lawyer to the mother of, and then the grandfather of, and that always stuck in my mind. And here I am. Yes, I'm Felix's grandmother. We're testing out go-go instead of grandmother because I'm too young to be a grandmother. Sorry, I'm not Grandma Moses. I'm sorry.
Nice.
I'm very proud of my kids and my daughter-in-law and my son's partner, my daughter's partner, etc. I am also, yes, a lawyer. But more importantly than that, I am engaged to be married, and being a divorce lawyer, being engaged means people can have hope. My fiance is Brad Sharp, and we're getting married in July. I'm really excited about that. I have a great engagement ring, and I'm visualizing it with the wedding ring on.
Oh, congratulations.
And then, as my background shows, thank you. I'm a partner at Blank Rome. I moved my firm, most of my firm, to Blank Rome 9.5 years ago. And that plays into some of the questions you're going to ask me, because that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about, what we were going to talk about today. Oh, I'm also an author of Divorce. It's All About Control, How to Win the Emotional, Psychological, and Legal Wars. I'm in the process of updating it, rewriting it for its 8th printing. And I'm also working on another book on alcoholism and the spouse of an alcoholic, as I've had that experience. And I'm working on a TED Talk. I have my own podcast, Stacy Phillips and Friends. I do mini podcasts that are legal, but my main podcast is just interviewing and talking to women for the same reason you talk to people. I want to hear their story and the issues. My podcast has a dear friend who's a co-host and then a celebrity guest. And interestingly, several of the celebrity guests have become my very good friends. So they then sit next to me and be my co-host. I love meeting people and getting to know people, especially really smart women. I think that's what I am. I'm a divorce lawyer. In New York, they say matrimonial lawyer. Here, we say family law attorney. Most people know it as a divorce lawyer, but that involves a lot more than just divorce.
Yeah. Well, and let me reflect a couple of things back to you before we get into your story here. And as is the case through our whole conversation, if I ever misreflect something or I'm not quite on the mark, by all means, correct me. So, I hear you describing yourself through your roles that you play professionally in your job, but particularly I saw the pride in the mother and the grandmother roles, and you're just beaming as you smile about that now. And then I also sense that there's something behind that that you didn't necessarily state directly, which is sort of I'm getting like this sense of like advocacy and sticking up for people and maybe something around justice and what's right.
So let me take that the next step. I should have said that one of the most important things that I am to me is to give back to the community and be a really
Mm,
good friend. So I pride myself on being a friend and introducing people. It's very odd. I'm a divorce lawyer, but I love making matches, whether it's for love or just business or friendship. I host a party every year for 200 kick-ass women, but the number of people who are invited just keeps growing exponentially.
mm,
And my contact list is 6,000 people I know. I know.
mm-hmm,
Um, and part of that is I am very devoted to being involved in my community. I just finished my chair of the board year for Public Counsel, the largest nonprofit legal services organization in the world. Social justice is really important to me. I
mm-hmm,
started a program in my own law firm 27 years ago. And then when I moved to Blank Rome adopted it. I call it our Adopt a Center program. And every year we adopt a local nonprofit, meaning not United Way's local office, but something that's indigenous to LA, that's local non-proselytizing,
mm-hmm.
to take care of children or families. And that's really, really important to me. Public counsel is really important to me. I've sat on numerous political boards and nonprofit boards. Looking forward to at one point sitting on a for-profit board because I think that's just different and I like learning. Otherwise, you stagnate.
Yeah, cool. Well, good. I'm looking forward to hearing how some of these things kind of play out in your story today and seeing how some of these traits and characteristics show up in you in the story. We're going to jump into the five questions here in just a second, but one thing I do with every guest before we get started is, Stacy, as you think ahead to the next 35 minutes or so and telling your story with us today, what would be your intention for yourself today?
Have a good time.
Okay.
Um, and maybe some of the things that I say will inspire me to think about it further and maybe do something differently than I've already done. When you put me on the spot and ask me a question, or more likely a follow-up question, and I have to think about it,
Mm,
maybe something I haven't thought about before. And I'm a pretty intense, introspective person. Like, okay, that was a really good question, which I've already thought your questions were good that I knew about. And
mhm.
okay, what does that mean? What did my answer mean? What can I do with that? What should I be thinking about?
Stacey, I love that because I've been doing this for it's going to be 3 years in May, and obviously my profession and so forth. I talk to people a lot and so forth. But what I love that you just shared is that a lot of times when people show up to this kind of a forum and they're here to hear stories, they assume and know and kind of expect that the story is going to be inspirational to others. And a lot of times, what I think we overlook is that the telling of the stories can be just as valuable to the storyteller themselves. And you said it just like so many other guests have said it. It's like often it will do something for me as well. So my intention is to support you in your intention today. Create the space for you to be able to share your story. And that, exactly as you said, there will be someone out there who, many someones out there who will see a little bit of themselves in you and your story, feel a little bit more connected, a little less alone. And in the best of cases, feel inspired or even empowered to go out and do something they've been wanting to do.
Yeah, and I'm already feeling that just listening to you. So
Mm.
thank you.
Wonderful. Let's jump in then. Let's get into it. So, okay, the first question of the five, Stacey, is where in your life have you found yourself sitting on a comma?
I love the way you phrase that. Coming up with the word comma, that's different. Most people would say fork in the road, you need to pivot. You had a dilemma, but comma is cool. Uh,
Hmm.
I've had several, but the one that probably was the most profound because it invited significant change was it started in 2009, but in 2015, I started to really do something about it. And 2016, I did something. Let me be clear.
Hmm.
I had my own law firm. I mean, I have a very snooty resume. I went to terrific schools. I went to Dartmouth. I went to Columbia Law School. I worked for a federal judge. I worked for a big firm. I worked for top-end boutique family law firm. And then I started my own firm, and I had partners and associates, and I had that ultimately for 26 years. Um, but it wasn't right anymore. It wasn't a fun
Mm.
place anymore. Um, I am a good lawyer, and I'm good at bringing in business and taking care of people. But having to run the business, even though I had accountants and office managers and bookkeepers and all of that, I was still running the firm. And ultimately, it stopped with me, even though I had partners. And that wasn't fun anymore. I
Mm.
wanted to be able to devote my time to what I did best, which is not running the firm. I'm very good at 50,000 feet up, but the day to day, worrying about are we getting a new copier or what our medical insurance is, I don't want to do that anymore. I do it
Mm.
for clients, very anal about doing that for clients, for good or for bad. Um, so I wanted to bring in the business, work on the clients, and continue to be involved in the community, like our Adopt a Center program, sit
Mm.
on boards, etc. So in 2009, I was really angsting over it. And my partners then called it the Stacy Manifesto. They asked
Mm.
me to make a list of all the things that needed to change for me not to try to take our firm to someplace else. And I don't know, it was probably 25 things. And I made the list and we started to chip away at those changes. And some changes we were able to make, and some we were not. It just, you can't. So by 2015, when I had a lease coming up in 2016, and end of leases and new leases are a pivotal point, a comma for so many people because you
Mm.
commit or not. Uh, and I said, okay, it's time. And I think I want to bring my firm into a big firm. I had started in a big firm after my federal clerkship. I was concerned about it because my largest referral base are big firm lawyers, and I didn't want to lose that referral base. But and I remember, and I just talked to this judge about this the other day. In 2009, I sat down with one of my favorite judges and talked about, at the time, moving into a big firm. I still have my notes from that meeting with him.
Mm.
And he told me to do it. I obviously wasn't ready, but I pulled him out in 2015, made a decision that I was going to look at some big firms, this time get my partners and associates to rally behind me. They were not behind me. Some were in 2009, but not
Mm.
in uh, the way I wanted it to be.
Mm.
So, and then started talking. And in 2016, I moved my firm, the bulk of my firm, to Blank Rome. And it has been a very positive experience. I'm very grateful. I have great partners. I have been involved at the 50,000 feet level that I said I'm good at, policy, compensation committee, executive committee, but I don't have to worry about the copier, the malpractice insurance, or the medical insurance. And when I
Mm.
went over, I said to them, I'd like to be involved in policy making, but please do not ask me to do something that is that boots on the ground. So by choice, for example, I'm not uh, interested in being the chair of our practice group. I want to be at a higher level. And I colonized the matrimonial group. That's what they call it in New York. In LA, we already had 20 something people in the matrimonial group in New York. We have two in Philadelphia. Now we have one in Florida. And we're building out our group. We now have, I don't know, 12 or 13 in our group in LA in the matrimonial department. And we're a tight, very powerful group. If anybody listening to this is looking for a job, I'm looking for another partner and one or two associates.
Mm.
Because we need more help. I need more help. So that was a comma, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for all the other people in my firm who
Mm.
rely on me? Um, I want to give them a soft landing. At some point, I'm not going to be doing this. I want them in a place where they can continue. If it was in my old firm, I stopped bringing in the business, that's not going to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And since I've been at Blank Rome, one of the roles I've played is being a leader, a mentor, a teacher. I came up with the idea a couple of months after I joined the firm to start what we call our Women's Leadership Summit, which has been a game changer for the firm, having all the women partners from around the country for part of the retreat time. And then we invite our women general counsel, chief legal officer, head of HR, business owners, clients and prospective clients for a couple of days with us. You can't sell to a client unless you know each other. So part of my motivation was I have these great partners around the country. I want to get to know them. At the
Mm-hmm.
time I joined Blank Rome, I was the oldest woman partner, and the one second to me could have been my daughter.
Mm.
And all the women partners of my level were back east.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I want to be able to work with them, I want to get to know them. And that was part of the impetus. Now we have probably half dozen of us at my age and more filling in the gaps in LA and around the country. Um, and thank God for the chair of of our firm then, who gave me a green light, and our head of marketing then. This has become a jewel of the company. We did it
Mm.
every year for a number of years, and now we do it every other year. We even did it in COVID. We did it
Mm-hmm.
virtually. It was not quite the same, but uh, I'm not wearing one now. I'm wearing a different pashmina, but one of the things we do, and it's our signature, we give every guest a colored pashmina. They get to pick the color.
Mm.
And I purposely made sure we don't write the firm name on it, because who wants to walk around with a blank Rome name on your pashmina? But
Mm-hmm.
so many of the general counsels have a collection. It's like a rainbow collection of pashminas.
Nice.
What
Nice.
we're known for. So um, my role in the firm has enabled me to do more of what I love to do, which is to mentor, to teach, to help develop uh, other lawyers. And I do with men and women, but my niche is women.
Mm-hmm. Stacy, let me reflect a couple of things back because you've obviously shared with us kind of a big story here, this period that spans from '09 to 2016 and then obviously into today. And on the one hand, I'm hearing you talk about a story that's very similar to other people that if we were to just like boil it down and dumb it down, it's like we could say it's similar to other people's job change stories. But I don't want to diminish it
Mhm.
because I know it's more than that. On the one hand, I see kind of this calling to do something different with job and career. But what I'm seeing as you kind of spell the story out is this kind of big shift in your roles, which you told us that. I didn't want to be an operator. I wanted to be a leader. But I saw what I believe I saw shaping out there more was what you said at the end, which is by giving up the kind of the owner operator kind of role, it freed you up to be more of a mentor and leader
Mhm.
and to shape a firm from the inside without having to necessarily own it or run it.
So in 2009, when I met with this judge, he suggested I read a book, and if I'm going to remember the name properly, but it really had an impact on me, called Second Half or Second Chance, but Second Half.
Okay, yeah.
And in that story, there was a very, very successful businessman who gobbled up cable TV companies around the country. And then one day, the deal didn't excite him anymore.
Mm,
Like, okay, what does that mean? And ultimately, he had to do some soul searching and looking, and he became sort of a leader in his church or church community with different churches around his state or whatever. And we all know that you have what, three big career or centers in your life. And the judge said, think about this. I'm Jewish, he's Christian. And he said, will it bother you that it is very faith based? And I actually love it because it's very faith based.
mhm.
I may look at it differently, but it was very soothing to me and it made me really think. And I remember interviewing in one of the firms that I was talking to, and they said, how are you going to feel for 26 years? You're the one making the decision. What is it going to be like? Can you handle it when somebody is telling you no? and
Mm,
making a
hmm.
decision for you. And my answer was, I think I can adjust. I don't know until I try it, but I want to do something different. And I want to have a different role. I've always mentored. I have like a collection of people I've mentored in my firm, outside my firm for decades.
Hmm.
But I have a greater reach here. Um, and I appreciate that. I'm still working my butt off. I thought that might change, but it's a different type of working hard. I mean, you'll laugh at me. In my old firm, I used to have a box of work packed up during the day that I would take home and get
Mm,
home and work on that and leave it all edited and fixed outside so that a messenger could come in the morning and bring it to my office and my secretary would pass things out before I got there.
mm,
I got, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours of sleep. I don't do that anymore.
mm, hmm.
So I don't have to worry about people's time in, what's the money, what are the bonuses. I don't have to do that anymore.
Mm.
Um, and so I focus in a different way, but I work my butt off, um, just differently.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like so many of us, I talk to so many folks who, like you said, I've heard from different books and different, schools of content, second chapter or the third, whatever. Like there's a lot of different ways it's portrayed. But what I notice is that for a lot of us, we get to a certain point in our career or a certain point in physiological aging or what have you, where it's not that we don't want to work. It's that we want to work differently. We want to work more meaningfully. We want to have a different kind of impact. And so it seems like that was very important for you. Let me ask the second question and then continue your story as necessary, go backwards, forwards, whatever you need to. But I want to introduce the second element, which is as you look back at this comma that you've been describing to us over this period of time, what did it create for you beyond what maybe you've already shared?
A pause, a comma, that I had to really think about where I wanted to be, who I wanted to be with, what I
Mm,
wanted to be doing. Ultimately, I'm going to have to make the same decision whenever I choose to retire. But I was nowhere ready to do that then. So, what did I want to do that was meaningful and
mhm,
still have my adopter center program, for example, embraced? Still, I entertain a lot.
mhm,
I do curated seating, and again, even though I'm a divorce lawyer, I like putting matches together, and it's extraordinary how that comes about. I People come up to me, how did you know that? Blah 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 blah. Well, I didn't, or I did in a different way. Um,
mhm,
I seated people once at my birthday party, thinking they'd like each other, not knowing they had grown up across the street from each other and hadn't seen each other in years. I mean, just little
mm.
things like that. I have had people develop relationships. I have marriages that I have put together. Um, so I want to
Can I
make,
jump in for just a
yep,
moment? Sorry for the interruption, but
go right ahead.
I wanted to say this earlier though, because to me, this doesn't surprise me as much because I'm a firm believer in that we all make observations over the course of our life and in the different ways that we work and so forth. But when you say you're a divorce attorney, you have to have learned a tremendous amount about people, men, women,
Mhm,
couples, and so forth through the separation process
mhm.
that informs what you know about people and who might be a good fit for each other and so forth. So I would imagine that's just like a whole rich body of experience and observations and knowledge that informs that as well as based on a couple of things you said, I'm guessing a little bit of instinct too, or maybe
Yeah,
more than a little bit.
instinct, intuition. I'll give you an example. So I had a client, and I sussed out really quickly that he and my best girlfriend might be a good match. Her
Hmm.
picture was all over my office. He was dating somebody else, and said, when you're ready, if you're ready. I helped him with a birthday present for the woman he was dating. Um, and my best friend at the time was living in Colorado, and we were
Mm,
here in LA. One day he said to me, you remember you mentioned that to me? I'd like to call her. I mean, he's looking around my office. she could see, her. She's stunningly beautiful with a heart of platinum, not just gold.
Hmm.
So I knew what she needed in a relationship, and I knew him really well, and I knew what he needed. And I knew how she needed to not push at a certain point. And even though when she wanted to push, she was right, but I knew it would push him away. So she listened to me. Years later, he said to me, you know what was really important to me is when we were dating, she didn't push me to do X. And
Mm.
I knew it intuitively because I knew him. They've been married for 21, 22 years now. She ended up being one of my key witnesses in a custody battle a trial where I was representing him. Uh, Eventually, her stepdaughters adored her, and when one got married, wanted her there, did not want their bio mom there.
Mm. Wow.
And I made a really good match because I knew two people really well. And like your intuition, I have pretty strong intuition.
Hmm.
I tease one of my partners, I've told a few of them. Over the years, when I've allowed somebody professionally, one of my partners, to push me on something that doesn't feel right to me, uh, making that argument or not making that argument or taking that position, if I can think it through and agree, God bless. But there are some times where my guts tell me it's wrong. And when I've allowed myself to be pushed, it has turned out poorly. And so when I
Hmm.
figured that out, I said to my partners, do not let me get pushed. And one partner in particular who would push me.
Hmm.
And I have said to partners as well, I am very collaborative and cooperative, and I will change my mind if we talk it through. But there are times where I just know I'm not going to change my mind. I'm willing to fail, um, and I don't when I just know
Mm.
that. So I will be direct and I will be polite. And this is one of those times. Do not push me. I may
Yeah.
be wrong, but this is what I think. And knock on wood, it's worked out.
It
Not
strikes me.
often.
Yeah. Well, it strikes me as you're talking, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but in a way, your story that you're sharing with us today, this whole transition from the one role into another, from New York to Los Angeles, it was like finding a better match for yourself.
Yes, yes, ultimately. And
Mm.
then I met Brad.
Mm. Okay. Well, okay, let's jump into the third question because obviously you continue to tell stories, but now I want to hear a little bit more of the reflection. So, question three is what have you learned what have you learned about yourself, or what are you learning about yourself as a result of sitting on this comma?
Um, that I can let somebody else control,
Mm.
which I knew, but I did not know it after 26 years in a work environment. Um, at home, I do not always want to be in control. It was very clear with a man I was looking for, and I would extrapolate for any business person. I want other people to know how to take charge. I don't want to be controlled.
Mm.
There's a vast difference.
Hmm.
So I learned more about that about myself, both professionally and personally. I learned that change is okay. My philosophy of life is I am willing to take a risk, a calculated risk. I'm not a bungee jumper type risk. I'm willing to take a calculated risk and fail.
Hmm.
I am not willing not to take a risk and be stagnant just because I'm
Mm.
afraid of change. It's who moved my cheese. And
Hmm.
I had a firm retreat of my firm years ago when I had my own firm, and I had everybody read Who Moved My Cheese. We watched the movie, and that is true life. And I am watching that now with AI, struggling with it. I have my own
Mm.
feelings on it. But you have to move or you stagnate. But how do you move? How do you think it through? And this was a big move for me 9.5 years ago.
Hmm.
I mean, I ran a firm, I made decisions, I was in control for good and for bad. Um, and now I'm, a partner now in a firm of 350 partners and, 400, whatever, associates, etc. Um, Different.
Hmm.
Um, for the most part, I agree with what the powers that be in my firm do. Sometimes I don't.
Hmm.
Sometimes I chafe with some of the decisions that annoy me. But you know, not everything is la-di-da, and I know they make decisions after a lot of thought, and there are a lot of people who go into those. Sometimes I'm part of that decision, sometimes I'm not. And I'm grateful that they're worrying about the copier and how we deal with AI, etc. Um, I wrote an email to my group before the firm came out with an AI policy because I had my own very strong thoughts on it. And I wanted people working with me to follow a particular protocol. So, God forbid, we have a problem.
Hmm.
Um, but I am grateful, especially during COVID. They worried about keeping the lights on.
Hmm.
And of course, that year, we had the best year we had had up till now, up till then. Since then, we've gotten better each year. And I had the most billable hours that year ever in my life, the most
Mm.
billable hours of anybody in the firm. My managing partner and chair called me and said, "You're the only partner I'm calling. You don't have to work that hard." Uh, and I said, "I can't, I'll die." But in retrospect, and this is a strange commentary on COVID, billing over 3,000 hours in 2020 was easier than billing 2,200 hours and doing 1,500 hours of public counsel and
Mm.
marketing and yeah, business development, yada, 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 last year. It was
So,
much easier.
and I think a lot of us could make assumptions about what you mean by that, but why don't
I'll
you,
explain.
yeah, what made it easier so that we know exactly what it was like for you?
All I did, I didn't go anywhere. All I did was work. Eventually, my daughter came to live with me, so I spent time with her. At the end of the year, we adopted a dog from a rescue, so I spent time with him, the love of my life. And Brad knows that. Um, and I walked. I mean, I walked, I worked. Um, I threw parties virtually,
Hmm.
but I wasn't juggling. Okay, who do I have breakfast with? How do I, host this party? How do I do the guest list for this? How do I do the seating for this? Uh, our adoptive center, we did it. We skipped one year, so it's the juggle that I do now, where I
Hmm.
have basically three full-time jobs. Uh, then it was all contained, and I was pretty healthy because I walked a lot. My
Hmm.
neighbors teased me because they always saw me on the phone. I'd walk around the neighborhood on the phone. I was either working. My favorite time is I had, I think, 3 hours on conference calls, and I walked 10 miles, during that
Nice.
time. That was the best.
Hmm.
Uh, but I also would be talking to my friends. I talked to my friends more during COVID than I talk to them now.
Mm.
I talk to my friends back east regularly. I don't now because
Yeah.
I'm too busy running around trying to juggle everything. And
Hmm.
at the time, it seemed hard and it was different. But in retrospect, it was simple.
Yeah,
And
I
I
was
miss
just gonna
that
say.
simplicity.
Yeah, I was just going to say what was coming up for me was that that year created a container where you could simplify and
Yes,
focus and wasn't that true for so many people, which is
yes.
why so many things are so different now, right? Not to deviate from your story, but just to comment is,
Go ahead.
this so many people had learnings and experiences and epiphanies through that year for similar reasons to
When
your
you started
own.
your podcast,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
so many people did that. Many people pivoted their careers because they wanted to or they had to.
totally.
What I am struggling with now is how to have more of that simplicity because my day-to-day stuff is chaotic again.
Hmm.
I work too many hours. I work out, I walk, but it is that forces me to stay up later. I don't want to miss time with my friends, although I don't spend enough time with them. with
Hmm.
Brad. So it's the juggle that is hard. And I'm trying to bring back some of that simplicity and not succeeding very well. So
Mm.
that's my comma at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and that's also a good springboard to the next question because you're kind of answering that question, but let's open it up. So the fourth question is, what has changed for you as a result of sitting on this comma?
More awareness, um, more thought about it, struggle, because I know it's possible to have greater simplicity. Um, Brad has a very large family. He has kids and stepkids. He lost two wives to passing, so he considers that his kids and stepkids are his kids, and they're
Hmm.
scattered around the country except for one set here. My daughter and her partner in New York, her significant other, my son, daughter-in-law, and grandson are in Pittsburgh. So for us to see most of our family, we have to get on a plane or they have to get on a plane. So
Hmm.
uh, that adds a lot of stress and strain and time. I want to be around my grandson. I
Hmm.
mean, we did a really good job. I was there July, October, November. They came out in December. That's pretty cool. It's hard to do.
Mm.
Uh, he also travels a lot for work where I am included. So I am on a plane a heck of a lot more than I ever was.
Mm.
That's not simplicity.
Yeah.
So we struggle with that and trying to carve out time for us. When people ask us now, want to get together for dinner, like, okay, give me dates in April. Don't
Hmm.
laugh, but give me dates in April. So I'm struggling with how to be more simple. That's probably not
Hmm.
great English. Being simpler and still maintain. And doing that on my own was different than doing it with a partner.
Yeah. Well, and this isn't a coaching session, so I'm really just setting up a curious question here. Um, so from your comma, your earlier comma that you were describing, it sounds like you came to a place of claiming simplicity, focus, independence, autonomy, agency, followed your intuition into a new place, changed your
Mhm.
relationship, found a better match for yourself. And now that time has passed, that has started to change again. And it sounds like you're, as you described, kind of getting further away from that simplicity
Mhm.
that you once had. What would you say has changed that's caused that to now become the case? Not that I don't believe you won't get where you want to get, because you've proven to us that you do.
Thank you. Because of COVID and experience it. I didn't work at home much before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Don't laugh, but I did not know how to get into my work email before COVID.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I don't remember how to get into my personal email on a computer. I can on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know how to do things that I then grew to love. I remember I had a three-in-one, a printer, scanner, copier, and
Mm-hmm.
it was too small. And I would end up like feeding documents into it to scan it because I edit by hand. Sorry, I'm not that technological. And
Mm.
I asked our then COO of the firm, can I please have a bigger, more powerful scanner? Because I am standing there with my edited bills for clients, feeding it, 10 at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And he authorized it. I called him up after I got the big one, like, I am kissing your feet. My life is so much easier because I could put a stack in and I'm not having to feed it. You've just made my life so much easier. Those kinds of things. Uh,
Yeah. Well,
but
you're honoring what makes you successful and where your value is. I think that's what makes it difficult for so many people, especially in the work world today, is we're expected to do all these things and we don't really, except for certain niches or certain, spaces,
I,
we don't really get to put our energy as much into the thing that we're really good at because we're also having to do all the other things. It's, metaphorically similar to living alone in a house. Like, yeah, you know how to do A, B, C, and X, Y, Z, but you also have to wash the dishes, do the laundry, scoop the litter box, and so on and so forth. And I could get off on a tangent with all the things that we're being that are being forced on us today with AI and logins and different platforms and apps and so on and so forth that keep you from
It's a
doing the
lot.
thing that you're passionate about. So it sounds like the firm saw the value in what you offer and said, whatever it takes to allow her to keep doing that thing.
And I'm grateful for that. Back in the day, and I remember the managing partner of a big law firm said when faxes started, "You're going to rue the day."
Mm,
And okay, then faxes expected a pretty prompt answer. Now we have texts and emails. I mean, it's 24/7,
hmm
non-stop. And if I'm doing my job, I'm not looking at my emails or my texts. Since this interview started, I've gotten two phone calls, and phone calls are not as much because of the text. The texts and the emails are blowing up my phone.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
People expect instantaneous responses. And one of the things as a lawyer that is really important is to think about things. You'll never see it on a bill. Think? No.
hmm
You want to respond. You don't want to react. You want to reflect. Somebody asks me a question, I don't want to just knee jerk respond. I want to think about it.
hmm
Some things I can answer very quickly, but some things take thought. And it's important to me as a lawyer to be able to do that thinking. That's what clients need, but not just firing things off. So, and you need a quiet space to do that.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think about that. I know some other attorneys in different fields of practice and so forth. I mean, isn't that what you hire attorneys for? Is the expertise, the knowledge, the familiarity with process and so forth. Like I don't, if I'm hiring an attorney, I don't need to worry about which buttons they're pushing or what apps they're using. I'm
But
concerned about their
people
knowledge of the
think,
law.
oh, you do this all the time, you know all the answers. Every case has a nuance. Every case, the personalities are different, the judge is different. How I argue to one judge is different than how I argue to another.
hmm
What I wear in front of one judge is different than what I wear in front of another.
hmm
How I approach things, how I approach my clients, how I approach my opposing counsel is nuanced. I remember I was sitting in a mediation years ago, and I had hired an expert to value a pawn shop. And I didn't have our forensic accountant do it. And the opposing counsel was like, and he had his forensic accountant do it. And the judge made a comment to me, and I said, if I'm expected to do every case as a cookie cutter, I'm taking down my shingle. People pay me to think about it. Our
hmm
forensic accountants have no ability to judge how to value a pawn shop. They don't understand it. Having a broker, the number one selling broker in the pawn shop world who used to work in big pawn shops, understands this
hmm
and can ask questions and value it differently than a forensic accountant. And if you're telling me that I can't think outside the box, I don't want to do this anymore.
mm
And he said, no, I'm not saying that, but you're doing it differently. I said, that's my point. I'm not cookie cutter. And so when clients say, well, how come you don't know the answer to this? How come you have to research it? Because laws are changing, implications are changing. I'm doing this for over 40 years. I could tell you what the laws have changed and the approaches from judges in the time I've been practicing. When I
hmm
first started practicing in one of my cases, there was no formula for valuing stock options when somebody was working in a company before separation and after divorce, after separation and divorce. I made up a formula. 6 months later, after that trial, the first case came down, then the second case came down, and
hmm
we have these formulas now.
Right. And this is why
Okay?
precedent is so important, by the way,
Yes.
for, and I don't have any knowledge of the law, but I mean, that just makes sense, right?
So things evolve. When I first started practicing, the basic custody arrangement was mom typically got primary custody, dad got every other weekend from Friday to Monday or Friday to Sunday or Saturday to Monday or Saturday to Sunday, and maybe one night in the off week for dinner or an overnight. That was basic in California.
hmm
Now, the judges start with a presumption of 50-50 custody. That
hmm
was unheard of then,
hmm
but we've evolved, and you
Yeah.
have to keep up with that evolution.
Let me jump in for a moment, Stacey. So, I mean, you're just reinforcing some of the things you described at the beginning of our conversation. We've seen how you have done things differently. We've seen how you kind of challenge the norms. We've seen how you evolve, and you've described a comma that you were sitting on in the past and a comma that you're kind of sitting on now. So, let me jump into the fifth question as we start to wrap up. What does getting off the comma look like for you?
Um, well, I got off the comma in 2016. Now I am sitting on a comma of how better to do what I do. And one of the ways is to hire more people. I've been trying to do
Mm,
that for 2.5, 3 years, and it's been a challenge. That's what I'm saying. Anybody out there listening, because I
hmm
truly believe if I have more people working with me, they can do what they do best. I can do what I do best, and I can ratchet it down and be more efficient, be simpler.
mm,
That is the way I see my solution for the next number of years. Um, if anybody has any other ideas on how to do this better, I'm all ears. And I talk about this. I talk about this with my
hmm
partners. I talk about this with Brad. I talk about this with myself. In case you haven't figured out, I think about a lot of things. I have
hmm
conversations with myself. Um, and that's what I'm wrestling with now. That's my comma.
Yeah. Well, but I also, if I can, I want to reflect and say, I think that also says that one of the ways you get off of commas is to look at what resources you can tap into and where else can you leverage talent and inputs and so forth, right? So it seems like
Mhm.
that's a big part of your solutions as you've described.
Um, thank you.
Yeah.
That's actually encouraging.
Nice. Well, I'm the comma person, right? I talk to people about their commas all the
You come up
time,
with
and
that word. I mean, you were obviously thinking about how to do this.
I did not create this. This came to me. I was, to make a long story short, during the pandemic, I wrote my one and only article on LinkedIn about how I was feeling during the pandemic, and the article was called "Sitting on a Comma," and it was about all of us collectively sitting on a comma. Everybody was stuck. Nobody knew what to do. Blah 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 blah. That was like early April of 2020. And then about a year later, I was going through kind of my own, like, I don't know what to do with myself and blah, 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 blah. And I remember going for a walk because I couldn't do anything else. I was so stuck. And the conversation in my head was, I can't seem to get myself unstuck. But other people tell me that I tend to be helpful with them, helping them get unstuck. And then it dawned on me, the universe spoke to me, and it's like, you're getting unstuck means helping other people get unstuck. And then it occurred to me sitting on a comma, it's like, oh, then I must be helping people get off the comma. And so my business is called Off the Comma because I do coaching and teaching and so forth. And then that was 2021, and that has continued to flourish. The podcast started in 23, I think it was. And yeah, so it, like, the metaphor just keeps bearing more and more
But you
fruit.
came up with the word for your article, comma. You didn't say
Mm.
semicolon. You didn't say
Right.
colon.
Right. Is all about the
Comma is
pause.
easier.
Yes, it's a pause, it's not a period, and the story still has more to be written, right? And
Really
so,
cool.
yeah, and what I love about it, and you have done this as well with your story today, is every single person I talk to, whether it's here in the podcast or just, friends and people on the street, when I say sitting on a comma or getting off the comma, most people can relate to it immediately. Whether, a lot of folks who are writers like yourself and so forth, but anybody, like, most people are like, yeah, that resonates with me. I know what that means. And then when I ask them what it means to them,
Mhm.
people, you can interpret how you want. Some people are like, oh yeah, that's my stuck point. And I've had other people, one of my guests earlier on was like, I stayed on the comma. I chose to stay on that comma because I needed to rest. She said her metaphor was so visual. She said she was like one of those inflatable clowns that you punch it
Mhm.
and then it goes down and keeps coming back up.
Mhm.
And she had been punched so many times from bobbing back up. She said, hell no, I'm staying on the comma. And I've had people say
Interesting.
laying on a comma, standing on a comma, walking across commas. And so it's just beautiful to see what it means for people. It's
So
so
I was
flexible.
talking to a graduated client of mine who's one of my closest friends. We put together a group of bestie girlfriends called the Sassy Six. She is one of
Hmm
them. The one who I introduced to her husband is another one of them. They came to me. I was going through a really difficult divorce, and they said, "You need a group of besties. Who do you want to put in this group?" And so I chose. And they didn't know most of the people, so six of us.
Hmm.
And I was talking to her right before I got online with you, and I said, "This is going to be a really interesting podcast. The question involves a comma, and it's really intriguing to me." And she and I have gone through commas together because remember, I
Hmm.
was her divorce lawyer. In the middle of her divorce, she called me up and said that she was dating somebody very seriously. Well, that impacts spousal support, which is a big part of a divorce. So that was a really important discussion. I said, "Who is he? You might know him." She said, "Oh, you dated him."
Mm.
I did when I was in law school, and he was an investment banker, which is pretty funny. And so then she got remarried.
Hmm.
Then she had grandkids. I had grandkids. I got divorced. I mean, so we've been through these commas and pivotal points in our career together. The
Yeah.
reason I was talking to her today is a year ago today, she lost her father. And both
Mm.
of us were daddy's girls. And I lost my dad in 2015. And the last picture taken of my father was with her father. They
Mm.
both have the same name, Gerald,
Wow.
Jerry, Jerome, Jerry. And I
Wow.
said to her, they're both in heaven, leaned over, having that conversation with each other and watching us in the
Hmm.
crowd.
That's
So, but
wonderful.
it was having this discussion about the comma with her.
Yeah, yeah. And there's always more to come. And, you do with the comma what you need to, whether it's a point to slow down, whether it's a point to rethink and reevaluate, and, whether it's a time to strategize or a time to like let things happen. Like it can serve value in and of itself and what happens next. And so, Stacy,
You've been
as
terrific.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, this has been awesome and it always is. I'm very, very grateful to be able to have these conversations. They shape me. I don't do the podcast for money or to drive business or anything like that, but I see it as a very important part of my body of work, and it is teaching me as much as I think anyone else gets anything out of it. We could keep going. I know you and I could keep on chewing on a rope for hours and hours and hours. As we wrap up, let's get back to you and your story. So, folks who want to learn more, maybe they want to follow you on social media, maybe contact you to see how they can get involved and support some of your causes. Where could people find you? I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes.
So I'm a partner of Blank Rome. I have an Instagram account. I think it's Stacy Phillips-esque. I don't think it's Stacy D. Phillips-esque. It's one of the two. You can tell I'm not very good at that. I am
That's okay. I'll
not
have the
on
links in the
Facebook,
show notes for folks.
but anybody can just go online and put my name. If you put Stacy Phillips, you might get a violin player as opposed to Stacy D. Phillips. But I, Brad and I were on a cruise this summer, and somebody, we're having dinner, asked what I did. I said, "Oh, I was a divorce lawyer in Beverly Hills," and I don't talk about myself. Brad tells the story that the next day, his name was Michael, came up to Brad. "I plugged in Stacy, just Stacy, Beverly Hills divorce lawyer, and she came up." So I'm pretty easy to find. Um,
Okay.
yeah, check out my book, Blank Rome, divorce lawyer, celebrity divorce lawyer, Stacy D. Phillips, ask, Instagram,
Nice.
whatever, YouTube,
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure all
my
the links are in the
podcast.
show notes. Yeah. I'll make sure the links are there so folks can just click on them and find you. Also, what's important, I do this for every guest at the end of every episode. I call this section acknowledgments because obviously you being here today and hearing your story, this podcast is all about lifting up people's voices, and your story wouldn't be complete if we didn't give you an opportunity to acknowledge others. And that could be your opportunity to boost or lift up or promote other causes, organizations, creators, or just people in your circle who are important to you. Who would you like to acknowledge today? And I'll make sure that they're included in the show notes as well.
Public counsel, really important to me.
Okay.
Um, Especially, and I'm going to show my Democratic leanings. Uh, I think it's in what happened in Minnesota. I mean, that's just a great example. Not
Mm,
acceptable to me.
hmm.
Um, I Blank Rome, big supporter. My honey, Brad Sharp, and he runs a company that deals with companies in financial distress like bankruptcy. He's a trustee, he's a receiver, he's a chief restructuring officer. If anybody is paying attention to what they call graffiti towers downtown in LA,
Hmm.
big towers that were could not be completed, and then these bungee jumping graffiti artists did millions of dollars worth of damage on them. He's in charge of selling the buildings. Um, and Daryl McCullough, George Griffin, and Melissa Penn, who helped me with my podcast, introducing me to you, um, refining my ideas so that I can be out there in the world, helping me with my book, helping me, figure out how to get off the comma.
Okay. Nice. Well, I'll make sure to include these links in the show notes so people can check these folks out as well. And as much as I hate to bring us to a close, I want to thank you for sharing your
Thank
story
you
with
so
us
much.
today.
I've really enjoyed this, and the view behind you is just spectacular.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Crater Lake, Southern Oregon. I'll just cover it up so folks can see it. But beautiful place. If you haven't been there, go check it out. It's humbling. It's nature. It was once a 12,000-foot volcano that collapsed in on itself, and now it's basically like a giant water bowl, and it's amazing. So,
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate it.
likewise, thanks for joining our community of storytellers, and I will look forward to following your story as it evolves.
Thank you.
What an honor it is for me to hear and share these powerful stories. I hope you feel the same way. Think about what you learned from this conversation. I encourage you to write it down in some form of journaling or reflection because surprises can reveal themselves to you when you write your thoughts down. If you were moved by today's conversation, pass it along to someone you care about. And if you do discover something you'd like to unpack further, book a call with me and let's talk about it. My links are in the show notes. Be sure to like this episode and follow the podcast here on this platform and all social media at Off the Comma. Feel free to interact and comment. Thank you for listening to this episode of Off the Comma. As always, keep noticing and keep listening.